All right, let's get straight into it.
Okay.
Today's deep dive is looking at Swiggy, the food delivery and quick commerce company.
Yep. Familiar name.
We've got this report, FinTracker, dated April 11th, 2025. It talks about a resignation from their board.
Ah, okay. Board changes are always interesting.
Exactly. So our goal here is to figure out, who resigned, why it's kind of a big deal, and maybe what it suggests about where Swiggy is headed.
Right. Understanding the potential ripples, especially for a major tech player like them, thinking about maybe going public down the line.
Okay, so the focus is Sahil Barua. He resigned effective April 11th.
Sahil Barua, right. He was an independent director there.
He was. Now, the reason they gave officially in the filing was increased professional commitments.
Okay. Increased professional commitments. That phrase, it gets interesting when you remember who Barua is.
Go on.
Well, he's the co-founder and CEO of Delhivery.
The logistics giant, yeah.
Exactly. So those commitments, they suddenly have a very clear context, don't they? His main gig is running this huge logistics operation.
That makes sense. And his logistics expertise, presumably, was pretty useful for Swiggy.
You'd have to think so. Especially when Swiggy was scaling up its delivery side like crazy. His insights from delivery, I mean, that's direct experience on operational efficiency. Probably invaluable.
Right. And here's another layer. The FinTrack report mentions he wasn't just any director. He was one of the earliest independent members on Swiggy's board.
Oh, really? So he's been around a while.
Yeah, involved during what the report calls a crucial phase, their big growth spurt, and significantly prepping for a potential IPO.
Wow. Okay, so he's seen a lot of their journey. That kind of long-term involvement, it adds weight to his departure, definitely.
It feels like it. Someone with that history, seeing the evolution, especially towards public markets, what kind of perspective would that bring?
Well, you're talking strategic counsel, right? Navigating the scaling challenges, the complexities of becoming a public company. Someone who's been there through thick and thin would have, a deep understanding. His leaving might suggest Swiggy's looking for different kinds of expertise now, perhaps, as their needs change.
Maybe. The report does have a quote from Barua. Let me see. I'd like to thank Swiggy. Swiggy is one of the great Indian internet companies. I look forward to cheering for Harsha and the Swiggy team. The usual positive stuff.
Sounds pretty standard, yeah. Amicable exit language.
It does.
But, I mean, the underlying fact is still there. A long-serving director with super relevant experience steps down because his main job running Delhivery is demanding more.
Which also makes you wonder about the pressures and strategic moves happening over at Delhivery itself.
Exactly. It potentially says something about both companies.
Now, the article does list the other independent directors still there. Anand Kripalu, Shailesh Haribhakti, Suparna Mitra.
Okay, so the board isn't suddenly lacking independent voices. That's important context.
True. They still have that oversight.
But still, losing someone with Barua's specific logistics background, given Swiggy's whole business model, well, that feels like a noticeable shift in the board's skill set mix.
Yeah, that specific expertise is gone.
Even with other strong, independent members remaining.
And interestingly, there's another small point in the report. Earlier in 2025, M. Sridhar, who was Swiggy's company secretary and compliance officer,
Yep, okay.
he also resigned. And he'd only been there about a year.
Huh. A compliance officer leaving after just a year.
Yeah. The report doesn't say why, but, 2 departures in key roles, board-level strategy, and then operational compliance in relatively quick succession.
It does make you pause. Doesn't necessarily mean anything dramatic, but it could hint at some internal shifts or adjustments going on.
Could do. Periods of realignment as a company matures or heads towards, say, an IPO.
Possible. Though we are just looking at what's reported here.
Absolutely. And just to be super clear, we're just relaying the info from this FinTracker article. No personal opinions, no speculation beyond what's written about why they left or what it means for Swiggy or Delhivery.
Right. Our aim is just to lay out the facts as reported and the immediate context.
Okay, so let's quickly wrap this deep dive. The main takeaway. Sahil Barua, CEO of Delhivery and a longtime independent director at Swiggy, is off the board.
Citing increased duties at Delhivery as the reason.
And this happens not too long after their company secretary also resigned.
Which brings us to a final thought, something for you, the listener, to chew on.
Yeah. We see how tightly linked e-commerce and logistics are becoming, right? They really depend on each other.
Definitely. More and more integrated.
So thinking about that, what might Barua's departure, a logistics expert leaving the board, combined with that earlier compliance role exit, suggest?
Yeah.
What could it tell us about Swiggy's strategic priorities? as they, keep moving down that road towards potentially being a public company?
It's an interesting question about the evolving chessboard in India's tech world, something to consider.